In Lakota, the concept of health is called wichozani. And it means something like balance and harmony, and it's both personal and communal. And the opposite of health is called tuachikaupta, which literally means having one's head on its side. And so that's similar to what we said in Kentucky about being tetched in the hade, you know. So the concept is one of imbalance. So balance and harmony versus imbalance. Lakota doesn't really have a concept of mental health. It's more one's entire being in balance and harmony. The closest one comes is the word makakijelo, which means suffering. And many cultures don't have a notion of mental, but they do have a notion of suffering and pain. So, and there's a wonderful Lakota concept that I wanted to describe to you, because it's sort of what everyone tries to medicate, I think, in the mainstream world. The concept is called wa'onshila, and it's recognizing one's pitifulness or condition of neediness as a creature in the world, dependent on all the forces and powers of creation all around, and an intimate part of the natural world, not separate from it. And so when one recognizes that, it's daunting. It's like the Buddhists recognizing the impermanence and the transitory nature of everything. And so that's where we start from, is that awareness. In these ways of thinking about mind and mental health, the community is the basic unit of study, not the individual. And so the idea is that we are formed by our relationships. that it's not that the brain makes our relationships make our brain. And as one of my elders said, isn't it wonderful that neuroscience is catching up to the Lakota? because now we're understanding. There's a book that was recently published called The Social Construction of Consciousness. And there's neuroscientists that are discovering that, developmental neuroscientists, that it's relationships that actually structures up the brain. That it's our relationships with our parents and caregivers that actually creates the brain. And if any of you have had the opportunity to see Bulgarian orphans, you realize how terribly tragic it is to not have relationships as a child. So relationships form us, and relationships are the basic unit of study for mind and mental health. So we, in this way of thinking, we are relational selves. We're not individual autonomous units. The elders think that's a ridiculous way of thinking, that it's flawed and misguided. And how could you ever think such a thing, they would say. So in this way of thinking, then, a person is an unexplainable creature with dimensions that come together. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about those dimensions so you could appreciate the richness of indigenous thought. Because I think rarely do you get to hear about the richness. When I was a psychiatry resident, one of my professors told me that Lakota were primitive and immature people who couldn't benefit from psychotherapy. And he actually published a paper in a psychoanalytic journal to that effect. And I tried to explain to him that we just didn't think it was very interesting to talk to people who hid behind our backs and didn't talk back. He didn't really get it, though.